Sound check, sound check. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Hope we're live. This is Steve, a Little Treasury jeweler, coming at you at 5 o'clock Eastern Time from downtown Cambrils, Maryland. So we hope everybody is safe and having a good day. And please, okay, sound is good. Thank you, Carlos. Pretty full house up front. And I'm getting a little feedback off of myself here. And I got to be careful what is doing that. So, okay. So, Williams Watches, Dave Williams, Lance Loengart, Stig from Denmark, Carlos, of course, and who else? Blue, hi, how are you? And Eduardo. And so, really good bunch coming on already. So I have a special guest today, and I'm going to bring him in a second. And his name is Kevin Doak, and he is a professor, a distinguished professor at Georgetown University, very involved in East Asian languages and Japanese culture. And he's someone I've met recently. Disclaimer, he is a customer, and that's how we met. So I'm going to bring Kevin on and get him aboard with us. So here we go. And can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me, Steve?
I can. I hope everybody can hear you as well. Give us a sound check, everybody, if things aren't working out well. So, got a couple little questions here I'll take care of up front. Someone's asking about Tudor watches. Would I kick someone out of the store if they came in wearing one? Definitely not. Definitely not. Okay. And so that I think that's the only one I need to get out of the way. And okay. All right. Sound is fine. And excellent. So, Kevin, you got in touch with us, what about a few weeks ago, several weeks ago, and you were looking for a Grand Seiko special model, an SPGP007, if I recall, a quartz model, and anniversary model. Why were you seeking that particular piece out?
Well, actually, I think the one that I wanted the most was the one I finally was able to get. But I didn't think that I could afford the automatic. See, I had a Grand Seiko automatic high beat for many years, and it seemed like it had reached the end of its life, and I thought it was time to replace it. So I started looking around to see what I could do, and lo and behold, I found out that this year was Grand Seiko's 60th anniversary, which was all the more special for me because it was my 60th birthday. Well, now I have to buy one of these Grand Seiko 60th anniversary watches. Which one can I get? Obviously, I preferred to get the SPG H281 because it was a high beat automatic, just like the one that I had for decades. And I wasn't sure I could do it, and I'm very indebted to you for making that possible. So now I'm the proud owner of a 60th anniversary. I don't know if I can hold it up.
Go ahead.
Automatic. There it is. High beat. Wonderful watch.
Okay. And so tell us about, let's look at the prior one. I'm going to bring up a picture of that. So it's a very interesting piece that you had, and we actually have it here in the store for evaluation. So I'm going to bring up a photo of that guy. And this is the model is the 5646-710, and it was from, I guess, the mid-70s piece. And how did you acquire that?
Oh, it's an amazing story. So when I was 17, I was sent to Japan as a Rotary Club exchange student. I was going to spend a year in a Japanese high school. And the very first host family I had, the Suzuki family, I met, we call him the grandfather. He was probably about my age, maybe a little over 60 then. And one of the first things he did, he sat down at his family table and he looked at me and he said, "You don't have a watch." Well, I was a 17-year-old American kid. That didn't seem important to me.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "No, no." He said, "A gentleman has to have a watch." So he took this Grand Seiko off of his arm and put it on me. And I had no idea what it was. I had no idea of its value. I wore this watch to high school in the country in Japan. I wore it in college in America. I wore it in graduate school. And I just wore it thinking it's just a watch. And I had no idea of the value of this thing. Finally, after about 2 decades,
Well,
probably
wait, let me hold you up a little bit.
sure,
Did you ever have it serviced?
no.
No, and it ran
Yeah.
for how many years?
Well, Steve, it's better than that. I wore it and used it for about 20 years, and then I put it in a box.
Okay, but
And
during that 20, did it keep decent time?
yeah,
It really
I
did.
just,
No,
that,
that's amazing, right?
the
Craig?
absolute most amazing thing was about 5, 6 years ago, my adult son got interested in Seiko watches, and I said, I think I have one in the basement. Maybe you'd like it. And so I
Uh,
went downstairs, pulled that out of a box where it had been for almost 20 years. And by the time I got upstairs, the automatic watch was ticking again. It surprised me very much.
right.
Well, then when I showed it to him, he said, "I can't take that. That's a Grand Seiko."
Uh-huh.
I had no
Oh, we lost your voice a little bit for a second.
watch from my grandfather.
Okay.
Are we there?
Uh, Chopped up a little
I had
bit. I
no
hope.
idea what a Grand Seiko was. Okay, we back?
Uh, yeah, it chopped a little bit. I think you're exceeding your bandwidth a little bit, but I think it'll calm down. I hope.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
just let me know when it cuts me off again.
Right.
I'll
I
start up
will.
again.
Okay. So go ahead with the sun and the watch.
Yeah, that's how I discovered that I had a Grand Seiko and it might be worth something.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it and tried to get it cleaned. This was about 5, 6 years ago, and it ran quite nicely for another couple of years until it really had some problems. And that's why I said, you know what, maybe for my 60th birthday, I should try to get another Grand Seiko. And that's when I
Well,
turned to you.
so Kevin, it looks like you really baby your watches. Is that true?
Well, now I will.
Now, and this watch is very special because I don't think this model came originally with an exhibition back, but somehow it ended up with one, it looks like. Is that true?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Well, I can see the mainspring in there.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm being a little cute.
I get it. Yes, it just a few years ago it started corroding and the back started falling apart. But
Hmm.
up until that period, from 1977, for the better part of 50 years, it seemed to work fine without any
Okay.
servicing.
Well, that's amazing. I think
Yeah.
our host person, CraigShipp, will love that because he's definitely not a fan of watch maintenance. So, Craig, you probably have something to say about that in the chat, I would think. So, okay, that's very cool. So, the 60th anniversary piece for Grand Seiko, 60th birthday for you.
Yes.
And so, what's so special? I mean, I know 60's a big milestone relatively here, but I think there it's a little bit more. Maybe you can draw on your vast knowledge of Japan and culture. Give us a little insight into that, will you?
Happily, happily. So in Japan, the 60th birthday is called kanreki, Kanreki, kanreki,
Hmm.
and it literally means a complete cycle of the calendar. They have a
Oh,
very complicated calendar, traditional calendar that has 10 zodiac elements and 12 calendrical elements, and they combine them and they come up with 60 combinations. What that means is when you've turned 60, you've gone through all of the calendar combinations and you start over.
mm,
So
right.
symbolically, that means you become a baby.
Okay. And
And, and a baby in Japanese is called aka, as in akachan. But
okay.
aka is also a homonym for the color red.
Oh,
So they take the honored guest who's turned 60 on his kaneki and traditionally dress him up in a red vest and a red hat. So that's red is a very big part of the kanreki celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And I notice on the Seiko 60th anniversary watches, they have red lettering and a red second hand. And I
Right.
think that's what that is supposed to signal. I think that signals the 60th anniversary color of red.
Right. Now, what about the blue? Does that have any particular reference? Of course, it's the Grand Seiko blue, so it's good for every year. But is there anything that ties into the 60th?